Hi guys, we are back for another episode of the Techne Connect Behind the Robot podcast. We're joined by a very special guest, Matt Trossen, CEO and founder of Trossen Robotics. How you doing, Matt?
Pretty good today. Thanks for having me on.
Good stuff. I appreciate you coming on with me. I guess first point of call would be to introduce yourself, introduce Trossen a little bit more, what your role actually entails and what you're responsible for.
Sure. So I am Matt Trossen. I'm the founder. Trossen Robotics has been around for 21 years. We've had a couple different personalities over that period of time. So the company started 21 years ago when I was a programmer working for another company, and I had an idea for some I/O components. I wanted to build some interactive stuff, but I don't know electronics. So I thought, wouldn't that be great if there were some electronic components that could control motors and read input from switches and control servos and lights and things, but I could program against VB.NET. So for you kids out there, VB.NET is a language that we used to use. And I thought that'd be great because I don't know how to do, microprocessors or anything. The computer can be the logical center, the brain of the project, right? And I literally sat up at 3 a.m. and was like, holy crap, that's a great idea. And I start jotting all these ideas down. I'm like, I can do servos and steppers and have these commands and all of this. And I thought, this is a technology that's time has come. We need this, right? And I thought, this is my idea. This is my brilliant idea. I'm gonna be a millionaire overnight. And so I went and searched the internet the next day and was crestfallen because there was another company that already was making that exact product. I mean, literally the exact product. So I was upset about that for a little bit. And then I called them and chatted with them. And there were some nice guys up in Canada that had started it. And it came out of a lab in a college that was playing with that sort of technology. And I somehow convinced them to give me $1,000 in free products, and I was going to become their American distributor. And so then I built a website because I knew how to build websites at that point. But I didn't know how to build shopping carts. So I figured all that out and made my own, database backend and all this stuff. And I sort of tell this part of the story to show that, you don't have to know everything to start a company, to start a career, to figure it out. You just jump in and start doing, right? Mm-hmm. And so the one thing that was nice is that I was kind of fearless. And it was like I was too dumb and ignorant to be afraid, right? So I just dove in and was having fun with it. And I still remember that I got my first sale in there, and the store was up, and I didn't even know that people were really accessing it. And I was bopping around in the back end, and I saw that there was an order in there, and I was like, wait a second, what? And I opened it up. There's an order for $350. I think it was Microsoft. And I ran around the office telling everyone that I just made I immediately did the math. I'm like, I made $138.42 without doing anything. This is amazing. It's like free money. It's raining from the sky. And I ran around the office and I was all excited. And I was looking at recruiting firms. They're like, okay, nerd, go sit down. And then I sat down and I go, what do I do now? I had no idea how to ship it. No idea how to ship this thing. And so I went and got labels from UPS and, put a little box together. And then I call UPS, and the UPS guy hated me because I was on the 9th floor of a building, and eventually I was calling him up there every single day, and he's got to go up the elevator to get the boxes, and I'm killing his productivity. And one day he goes, you're being charged $5 for every one of these handwritten labels that you make. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, he's like, why don't you get a printer? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you can print labels on a printer, dummy. I go, where do I get one of those? He's like, call your rep. I go, I don't have a rep. What are you talking about? So that was the beginning of the company, right? Just a young guy who really didn't know what he's doing and just loved the technology and thought it was exciting. And then I had the components in there. So of course, if you have motor controllers, you got to start stocking motors. Servo controllers stock servos. Light controllers stock lights, right? And then you stock the brackets to mount this stuff. And then if you have motors, stock the wheels. And I just sort of gravitated towards the hobby robotics industry. And I woke up one day and I was like, oh, I have a robot store. Huh. Mm-hmm. And it was never planned. It was just following passion and things. And then throughout the next, 15 years, it was scrambling to figure out how to stay alive, how to make money. Places like Amazon showed up and competed. There's a company called Robot Shop in Canada, whose I think sole business model was take business from Matthew. And they were pretty good at it, unfortunately. And then you had some awesome companies like SparkFun and Adafruit pop up that sort of owned the new space that was also modular components, but it was all based around Arduino. We had a small stint where we tried to make a company called Robot Geek, which was Arduino-based robotics. And I still think it's a phenomenal idea and should have gone further. I didn't have the resources to get it off the ground and break through the noise of the internet with all the other startups and things coming off of Kickstarter. We ended up finding our bread and butter selling manipulators between $500 and $5,000, right? So there's a ton on the market and the low end hobby level, and then a lot of arms that are more expensive, right? Industrial arms. This is the pre-Cobot era. And so we made a living doing that, right? And then fast forward, cobots became a thing. The arm prices came down on those, but generally are about 10 grand and up still. And then basically AI happened, right? So machine learning and AI. And then Stanford created the first Aloha kit, which is 4 arms. 2 of them are leader arms, 2 of them are follower arms, and a user teleops the follower arms using the leader arms to do tasks. And then they have cameras and you're doing data collection and all this. So in the past 2 years, this entire industry has exploded. And it's a brand new industry. Well, Stanford used Trossen Robotics arms, right? So they also gave us a heads up and said, can you turn this into a kit? We just have a BOM for this. It's all open source, it's online, but we don't sell robot kits, right? We just do research. We said, of course, yeah. So we put the kit together. And then in December of 23, they released the mobile Aloha and it went insanely viral, right? Like overnight, they had 1 million views. And that's the one where they had a mobile robot running around and it was like doing laundry. It was like making food. It was cleaning. It was folding things. He even had it shaving his face at one point as a joke. And it just caught everyone's attention, right? Yeah. It just sparked something. And they nailed it. They created a machine learning model around it, and they have the arms in the right format and everything, right? And Aloha stands for low-cost hardware. That's what it meant, right? And so their idea was, let's make something that you can buy for 20 or 30 grand, which is low cost, at the time when all the other robots are 50 grand to 100 grand, right? So we overnight shifted gears and said, this is the market. We got to chase this market. And so we had to rebuild all of our product lines. We had to move to the new servos. Back then we used Robota servos, which were 15 years old at that point, old technology. Everything had moved to QDD servos, which are basically, it's called quasi-direct drive. Basically means you have a really low gear train, as low as you can get, with large stators and rotors to have a lot of power in the motor itself. So you get torque transparency and compliancy. It came out of the MIT Cheetah project. And so all of the modern machine learning arms use those types of motors now. So we had to figure out, where do we buy these? How do we get our hands on these? And then rebuild the product line from scratch, essentially. And we did the first wave of that. And right now we're doing the second wave of that. And Q1 of next year, we'll be releasing an entire new line of products for that. Nice. And so we were kind of adopted by that market, and we're chasing it. And there's a lot of competition all over the world that's chasing it, a lot of money flowing into it. This is the future of automation, right? This is the next wave of automation for literally the human race.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Really, really good insight into where Trossen came from your standpoint, but also where you're at now as a company. To be fair, I think it's really, really interesting, the journey that you've been on. I guess from my perspective, I'm intrigued as to what a typical day looks like for a CEO and founder, to be honest. What does day to day look like for Matt?
Yeah, well, typical joke is there's no typical day, right? Every day is different. But for me, I start the day by sitting down at 9 o'clock sharp with my team. So I am CEO and founder, but I'm also in charge of product development. So I'm in charge of the mechanical development team. So I have 5 engineers. We sit down and go over what's on the to-do list for each of them. And then I'll course correct if we've got something that needs to change. I'll balance resources. I'll review what they're working on. I give tips. I'm obviously mentoring all these guys, and I take care of that. And then it's whatever's on my desk for the day. And that might be working with a bank for a loan. It could be working with the software team and making sure that they're on task, so that they're aligning with things coming out of the mechanical engineering team. I may go check in with the production department and say, is there anything stuck over here? Do I need to help with anything in that area? The production department and the software department largely run themselves. I have some great people in charge of those departments. So I'm really light-handed in those areas, which is lovely for me. I largely pay attention to the product design and development. The other big part of my job as a CEO and founder is team building, right? There's nothing more important than getting the best talent possible into your team. So we have hot products in a hot market, which is the first 2 checkboxes you want to achieve as a company. And when you have those, the rest is execution, right? And if you have a hot market, you have a lot of competition coming in. A company really is only there to solve problems for other people, right? Between your product and or your service that's attached to it, you're solving a problem for someone else, and they're saying, "Hey, here's money, solve my problem."
Yep.
Right? So it's all about execution. And the company that can solve the problem better than the other companies wins.
Yep.
They grow, right? Mm-hmm. Well, you can't solve problems if you have a bunch of dunces in your building, right? You have to have smart people who can get to the answer, figure out how to do it efficiently, how to do it cheaply, how to make sure we have a margin, delivering those products or services so that we're successful and grow. And for the first, I would almost say that first 18 years of my company, I was terrible at this. I hired kind of whoever, I got lazy about it. And then I let people that were not as good stay far too long, and the company suffered for it. And so I've learned a painful lesson that you have to put a lot of effort into recruiting and sourcing up front, and then mentoring that talent. So for example, we on average probably look at 1,000 resumes per position, mm-hmm. right? And then we interview a lot of people, and it's a very long interview process to get them in. Mm-hmm. But we have an incredibly good team here. Mm-hmm. I'm over the moon with the team we have here, and it's like you can't just hire smart people. You got to hire people who are smart and driven and work hard and are professional and emotionally stable, even, so they work well with the team, right? Mm-hmm. We have a policy here that BS stops at the door. Life is hard enough. You shouldn't come to work and spend 8 hours a day, or if you're in a startup, 12 hours a day working with people that are difficult to work with, right? That are I call it emotional blackmail. If someone's in a bad mood and they're giving you short answers and they're being grumpy and they're kind of just signaling, stay away from me and stuff. It's emotional blackmail. It's it's a manipulation technique, and things like that we don't allow in here because life is difficult enough. We should be like a team that's got a common goal together, and we should have fun doing it because this stuff is really exciting. It's a really good time. So mm-hmm. I consider a large part of my job is protecting that culture and finding those types of people and bringing them in, so we have the best chance for success, because this is an extremely competitive field.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. And I do, in a sense, agree with you finding the best possible people for the job. But like you said, it's also the right person for the job. And I think that's where companies kind of fall down on, especially on recruitment, to be honest. It's a really good way to be able to build your brand, but also to be able to master that alignment between candidate and the position, to be honest. It's something that Techne really pride ourselves on, is being able to align that person to what it is that the right person for Trossen Robotics, who is the Trossen Robotics person. That's something that we're very, very good at. Love it, to be honest. Love it. Great insight to who you are professionally and what your day-to-day looks like. But what do you look like outside of work? What happens outside of work for Matt? I'm guessing it's probably more work.
Yeah. Last time we talked about this, I was I'm the worst person to ask this, because I'm obsessed, right? I'm a workaholic. So, outside of work, I of course, try and spend time with friends and have a social life and a dating life and all that. I don't have children or a family, so this company is my baby, right? So I try to spend time as efficiently as I can and trying to be as healthy as I can, right? So mm-hmm. for me, health is a big thing these days. I'm getting older, right? And try and watch what I eat. I try and be in the gym at least 4 times a week, because I want to live a long time and I don't want to be decrepit by the time I hit 70 or 80.
Yep.
So I'm trying to pay attention to that. A lot of mental health, right? So try and pay attention to meditation, and careful about what I consume in terms of media and messages, for instance. So one thing I think about, so I listen to a lot of podcasts, right? I listen to Founders, which is an amazing podcast for anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur. It is the masterclass, and you must be listening to this podcast if you think you're going to start a business. It's incredible. So when I get into the truck to drive to work or home, 90% of the time I'm listening to a podcast or a book that's been recommended. Mm-hmm. I'm not listening to talk radio. I'm not filling my head with garbage. If I want to take a break from that, I try and listen to a positive podcast. Amy Poehler just came out with a good one, and it's all about love and good vibes and lifting your friends up and stuff. And it's also hilarious. So that's me taking a break but trying to put positive stuff into my head. Obviously, going to the gym is good for mental health. Meditation is good for mental health. Emotional sobriety, that sort of stuff is really important to me, and I pay attention to that. And then if I have a side project or something like, recently I wanted to learn how you to code with ChatGPT because it's been years since I've coded.
I also tried to do that as well, very unsuccessfully.
Yeah. You say you were or weren't?
No, very unsuccessfully. Yeah, I think I lasted an hour and then I gave up.
Well, I have a coding background, right? So I think that helps to have the framework. You should
definitely
know what the code does and how you set it up and how you deploy it and everything. But I just, I used to build internet crawlers back in the day in a previous lifetime. And so I played around with that again. And I didn't know how JetGPT was used and I didn't know how it was integrated into things. So I'm like, let me check this out. And I couldn't believe how good it was, and how fast you can code. And I slapped together an app in 2 hours in a language that I didn't know. And I couldn't believe it. And it gave me a better understanding of how this stuff is being used in companies and how it's being used in the software division of my company. So that gave me a better insight. So, even my hobby and play times are beneficial to my goal in life, which is to build the best robotics company I can, right? Again, some people think I don't have a good work-life balance and I'm obsessed, right? But people like me who want to build companies and feel like, death is ever marching behind you and time is running out and, you get as much as done as you can.
Yeah.
That is my normal. I enjoy that, right? When people hear that I'm going into work on a Saturday morning, they're like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, man. You're not going to relax this weekend. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't want to be anywhere else. It's truly a place of joy for me. I've spent 21 years building this company and 30 years trying to build companies to get to a point where I have a bunch of brilliant engineers working on really kick-ass projects that are a lot of fun. I can't wait to get to work and work on these things. This is amazing. This is my childhood dream, right? And so I crawl the walls if I have to be away from the office for 2 days straight. So I love coming in and working for a little while on Saturday morning. We crank the radio, we order a pizza, we're working on fun projects. It's a good time. We enjoy it, and we tend to hire people that are like that as well. So yeah,
I love it. To be fair, really, really good. Sounds like you've got a really, really healthy work environment there, to be honest, which is something to applaud. I think companies do a really good job at saying that they have a really good work culture, but it actually seems like you do, to be honest. It's really, really attractive for candidates.
Yeah, we try and tell people, we do tell people in every single interview. I say this, I say, we like to leave people better than we found them. And whether you're here for 3 months, 3 years, or 30 years, we want you to improve in three things. We want you to improve in your skills. We want you to improve in your career, in your career opportunities, and advance your career. And we want you to improve as a person, and people here, they go to the gym together, they go rock climbing together, they go to the bars together. People are making friendships here. People trade suggestions on podcasts and books. They say that companies take on the personality of their founders, which is true. So some people say I'm cloning a lot of little Matt Trossens all over the place. People that are high strung like me and just anxious to be working all the time and love to solve problems and they're go. And they want careers, not jobs, right? Yeah. There's a big distinction between those two things. And we try and offer people careers here. Yeah. And as a small company, a startup we have 34 people right now. They're all careers, right? They're all career starters. And it's a choose your own adventure because when you're a little startup, it's a little pyramid, right? And you're up in this section and it's like rising out of the ground and you're layering in. And you can rise to the level you want to play at and then stay there or keep rising with the pyramid, right? It's literally a choose your own adventure for your career, right? And there's endless opportunities. And what's cool is that you're brushing shoulders with all the other departments and disciplines and technologies on a daily basis. You get to see it all, you get exposed to it all. And so that's a trade-off in a startup. Is you're going to be asked to work 10, 12 hours a day sometimes, 6 days a week, but you're going to just accelerate your career like nothing else. And build skills, rapidly. Not everybody wants that, and that's okay. There's plenty of just jobs out there where you punch in at 9 and you punch out at 5, and you don't have to think about it when you go home. And people have their own passions, they want to build a family and they want to be there for their children and all that. that's why it's really important to decide what you want. Like if you are trying to figure out what it is you want out of life, ask yourself where your values are at and where the things you want to do are. The lifestyle I run isn't healthy for other people when they need a lot of family time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't need it. I don't want it, right? I'd rather be building and having fun. And I don't get a sense of loneliness like your average person does, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine going to bed in a quiet apartment. That doesn't bother me. So it's important to think about those things so that you align your life with what will make you happy. And if I can go off course for 1 second here, because I know that this is being distributed to a lot of younger people starting their careers, is that in my mind, the purpose to life is to be as happy as you can and as joyful as you can. That's goal number 1. And goal number 2 is to be a good person and a good citizen in society so that you're helping as many other people do that as they can, right? The golden rule, treat others how you want to be treated, right? And it's important to pay attention to this stuff because the decisions you make will determine what the rest of your life is like. And if you don't do the hard work and you end up in a job you don't really care for, and when you go home, instead of like studying more, improving yourself, hanging out with other people that are being aggressive about their career goals and forward thinking, you're just going to sit and scroll on your phone with reality TV in the background, eating, Cheetos. And then you're going to wonder why when you wake up in the morning, you're angry and you're upset and you're not happy. And then you just mope your way back to work and then do the minimum to go through the day. And then you're emotionally unsatisfied. So then you go and you seek dopamine hits in the form of social media all night long again, which are custom tailored to give you dopamine hits and keep you addicted to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
They say that these days the drinking is way down, right?
Mm-hmm.
But people aren't happier, right? They're just soaking up social media and they're watching other people live their lives, and it's not good, right? So if you are actively thinking about where your values are at and what makes you happy and what you want to do and striving towards it, then you're going to be a happier person, right? And you're spending 8 hours a day at a job, right? You're spending 8 hours at a job, 8 hours in bed, and 8 hours of free time in a average day, right? So 1/3 of that you're sleeping, right? You're not even conscious, right? 1/3 of that you're at work, and often more, right? To be honest, it's often more than that because you're driving to work, preparing for work, you're winding down from work. You only get 2 to 3, maybe 4 hours of me time at the end of the day, right? And life goes by very, very quickly, right? I'm 50 now, and honest man, I don't know how it happened, right? I thought I was 30 yesterday, right? The last 20 years have gone by in a blink of an eye.
Don't tell me that. I'm 31 right now.
Right. It goes fast, right? But you're doing something you're really passionate about, right? You're being intentional with your time and what you want to do. This whole podcast, you don't have to do this. You could just recruit during the day and go home and drink a beer. But like you're going the extra mile, right? Like you are creating a podcast. This is allowing you to network. You're, it's filling your pipeline. You're going above and beyond other peers that are doing this. And you're going to have more success and more enjoyment in your life. You're going above and beyond. You're not just punching a clock. You're creating a career.
That's the hope.
Versus a job, right? And that's the sort of stuff I'm talking about.
Very, very, very inspiring, to be honest, Matt, but very, very similar in the sense that Techne's work culture is very, very similar to Trossen's as well. Is that you build those friendships, and we go to the gym together. We go to the pub together, that kind of thing. You are what you surround yourself with. I guess it's that common, very cliche term, but it's true. I completely agree with you. Perfect. I wanted to pick your brain on really kind of some topics that you can maybe brag about yourself about, any kind of career milestones or projects you're proud of, or any groundbreaking work that you think you've been involved in.
I'm very proud of the fact that we've survived 21 years in an industry that is just full of headstones, right? Mm-hmm. I literally have boxes of old robots from other companies that are up in the attic, and someday we're going to make a museum. We literally put it in a box when we write museum, and then we stick it upstairs in the attic. Yeah. So I'm proud of the fact that we've survived, right? I wish we were bigger as a company and a little further ahead. I feel like we're always trying to survive and playing catch up. And I'm trying to pull away from that in the next few years. But by being nimble and watching where the market's going and always making good products and taking care of the customer, we've managed to stay alive. Again, your product is supposed to solve problems for other people. And if you can solve their problems, they'll keep coming back and buying stuff from you. The challenge for us has been that the bar keeps moving, right? The goalposts keep moving. And so the products and services we provide have moved with it. So in the old days, it was just show me the right motors with the right controllers and the right brackets, right? And so we packaged those together and we had it in a store and you could buy it all in one place. And we had forums next to it that explained how to use those things, right? And then it evolved and it was like, well, I don't want to spend 8 hours building this thing. I'm a researcher. I need to move quicker. So then we started pre-boxing and building the arms, which gave us more margin, right? Which was a smart move. And then it became, now there's ROS, right? And I needed to get this stuff up and running in ROS. So then we hired software developers who created the Hello World example packages to come with it. So that when you got the arm, there was, I want to do puppetry, or I want to do object tracking, or I want to do kinematics. We had example packages for that. It got you up and running. And our catchphrase was up and running in a day. And then you could, once you have that operational, you can start layering in your own code, right? Well, now with machine learning, that's evolved even further. So now it is, I have to have my data pipeline plugged in. It has to work with the latest models that are like, ACT or PIES models or something like that. That's got to be integrated. We have to have solved the cables and the cameras and the data collection, and we've added a computer into the kits. And so now it's literally a machine learning data collection lab in a box, or a crate, really. The fact that we've done that as a company is something we're really proud of, right? And you got to be looking down the pipeline and see what's coming next and start building it ahead of time. So the time when the market swells and is asking for it, then you have the product, right? And so we're really proud of what we're coming out Q1 of next year, where the next generation of products, we're just leaping forward. We're solving all of the pain points that are out there in a big way, so that we have much more solid products. For customers, it's all about uptime, right? Like if a robot goes down, it's brutal because you're not collecting data. And people that are selling data are selling it for a lot of money every hour. Mm-hmm. So every hour you're down is painful for them. If you're a research lab, you need to collect that data very quickly. So anytime an arm breaks and there's downtime, it's frustrating. So we're doing a lot of things to solve those problems. And we're adding all the features that people are looking for. So those are some things that we're really happy about here.
Love it. Perfect. I'd like you to flip it on its head a little bit and really focus on a little bit of maybe self-reflection. So do you think there's been any lessons that you've learned whilst being in the industry, or any advice that you'd give to, imagine that you're 18 to 21-year-old Matt again, and you're looking for some advice before you get into robotics. What would that advice be, or what would those lessons have been?
Well, working with the right people I mentioned earlier is a big one, right? Yep. Staying focused on a singular goal, right? So when I was 18 or 19, 20, I had 15 projects going at any given time, and I never got really far with any of them, right? It was very undisciplined because I would, get excited about every idea I have, and I think I have to capture this, I have to work on it, I'm going to lose it, right? Anything from book ideas to technical projects to photography projects to writing. I was all over the map, right? And I remember one day I literally got so mad at myself because the company was starting to do well. I literally took 2 large garbage cans out of my garage, I carried them into the basement, and I swept projects off the table, like beloved projects I'd worked on for years. I said, I can't do this anymore. I have to stay focused on a singular goal, right? So that was something that I wish I had done sooner. When you have a company, a number one way to kill a company, a small business, is to spread too thin and try and do too many things at once. Yep. There's, titans of industry like Steve Jobs that said that the number one thing successful companies do is say no, choosing to do just the things you're supposed to. The advice I would give young people that want to get into tech is that it's not all about what's going on in the classroom and doing group projects and doing what the teacher tells you. If you're truly passionate about this area, you should be doing projects on the side and you should be learning on your own. The number one way to do that is to pick a goal, pick a project, and just go after it. Like I wanted to learn how ChatGPT encoding is done these days. So I was like, I'm going to build a web crawler and I'm going to crawl Reddit and I'm going to pull comments and I'm going to sort them and parse them or something like that. And I just picked a goal, and that gave me something to aim at, right? And then I started learning the technology in order to get it done and accomplish it, right? So the best people that we hire that have the best skills are the ones that did the most projects. And when I see resumes and it's just, well, I was on this group project doing the F1 car and this group project doing something, and that's my whole portfolio, those generally get passed by because I don't know what you did on that team versus not. I know that you just walked in and did what you were told by the professor, and then that was maybe it. You maybe did some hours after school, but you weren't really, passionately like eating and sleeping this, every day, right? You can tell the difference between a portfolio that has that sort of attitude behind it, and one is like, well, I went to school. Here's my piece of paper. I'm going to call myself an engineer. I don't think you're not an engineer. You went to school for engineering, but have you really built anything? And the portfolios that are just full of projects and people who stayed busy, they're the ones that really know like 3 different CAD modeling softwares, and they've learned how do I design gears, and how do I do linear actuators, and how do I multi-parts, and they learned 3D printing, and they learned water jet and laser cutting, and all the different manufacturing processes and molding and things like that. They could tell because their knowledge base, it's spread out. There's a lot of experience. If you want to get into robotics, the number one thing to do is get in a competition, right? Get into FRC first, any of those competitions, and stay in them for years. My top engineers were hugely passionate about FRC, and were leaders of their teams, because those expose you to so many different mechanical engineering disciplines, right? And if you want to be a programmer, then program. Just start making projects, start building code as much as you can. If you want to be an electrical engineer, start thinking of boards to make. You can buy PCBs, from Chinese websites for $10, right? And you'll get them 10 days later. There's no barrier to entry, right? And school's great. I'm not trying to trash school. Like, there's certain disciplines you have to go to school and get a master's, right? But you have YouTube, right? Which is the greatest school that's ever been created, right? And you can go home and you can watch YouTube. Because in school, you're essentially learning at the pace of the slowest person in class, right? The teacher has to slow it down. And if you're a smart person, you should be bored out of your mind. It shouldn't be moving fast enough. And so you should be finishing your school projects, get that degree, but go home and work on projects at night, right? And then network with people and talk to people. That's how you start a career. That's how you really get talented. And so, like, again, coming back to me, I grew up in a blue collar family. My parents did not help me out with like networking and getting into companies or anything like that. I worked fast food until I was 25 years old. I was very lost. I'm an art school dropout. Like, I went to school thinking I was going to be the next James Cameron, and that didn't work out. So then I just started learning by like trying to start companies, creating products, and learning by doing. And I got my MBA over the last 30 years, constantly failing, right? And getting things wrong. But I was going after it. I was really trying to learn how to do things. So yeah, those are the sort of lessons I've learned over the years that I tell any young person I run into, that's how you do it. That's how you make it work. And don't be afraid to fail is the other big one.
Yeah. I completely agree with you there, especially on the being able to tell within the first 10 seconds whether a portfolio is what you're looking for or not, whether they're actually a good candidate or not. That they'll also, like you say, you'd be able to smell their hunger for it. But also those people that, because they've been involved in so many projects, they've got so many different disciplines that they can pull down from different shelves at any given one time. Those are the golden candidates that we look for at Techne as well for so many clients, is those generalists, the ones that have 10 strings, 20 strings to their bow, and they really know which skill to pull down when. I think that's a skill set that is just invaluable.
Yeah, and I'll say this, I say we look at 1,000 resumes per position, right? And people might hear that and just they feel hopeless. They're like, oh my God, like I'm never going to get hired. It's because like right now there's more candidates than there are jobs out there. But if you break it down like this, it's a little less scary. So when we get 1,000 resumes, more than 500 of those they have no business applying to the position, right? So that's not your competition, right? Like 50% of those, sometimes 60, 70 are thrown out immediately because they shouldn't be. So if you're applying to a job that you should be applying for, then it's not 1,000 to 1, right? Yeah. It's like 300 to 1. And then if you've done the work and you've built a solid portfolio, because here's the other thing is we say, do not apply if you don't have a portfolio. It is in bold letters all over the job postings. You literally have to answer a question if you're applying through LinkedIn, where it says, I say, how many years do you have CAD experience? And they'll answer that. And then I say, are you attaching a portfolio to your job application, and they have to answer yes or no. And I actually added in bold letters the last time I posted this, all caps. I said, "I am not lying to try and waste everyone's time thinking you're going to look at my resume." And people still click yes, and they submit their resume. So out of those 300, then you've got almost 200 that don't even have portfolios attached to them. So now I'm down to 100, right? And then I will look at every single portfolio I get. I open every single one of them without fail. So if you've done the right things, you are being looked at, and you're 1 out of 100, right? And if you put a solid portfolio together, I'm going to be interested, right? And you might get a call or an email, and I'll start vetting you, and you've made your way in, right? And then out of those, there's probably only 20 of them that are really qualified, right? Mm-hmm. So if you want to think about it, you hear the 1,000 to 1, it's scary, but that's if you're, doing a crappy job, right? And you're just spamming everywhere. If you're really qualified, it's a 20 to 1. You have a chance, right? And if you start learning the way to get people's attention in your industry, you will get calls and you will get interviews.
Exactly. And it all comes down to that networking as well. Send a couple of messages on LinkedIn, send your portfolio to people that are going to be interested in it. I think that's the key one as well, is putting your portfolio somewhere where it actually deserves to be, and not picking someone that's going to gloss over it, or again that type of company where they're just going to take one look at it and chuck it out the window. Finding the right person.
Yeah, and a piece of advice I'll give is if you're gonna message somebody on LinkedIn, make it a concise little message about, I am like a mechanical engineer. I've been in first. I've done this. I have a passion for it. Here's my portfolio. Would love to hear from you. That's all you have to do. Then attach it. Don't ask for permission to attach it. I get a lot of those. Like, would you be willing to look at it? Like, you've already blown it. I'm not going to reply to you. And because I've got 30 of those in my inbox saying, yeah, please send it, and start a conversation. Then you think we're having one, but we're not. Just put it in there. Because if you're talking to a good manager who's looking for talent, they're going to open it because they want it. Take all the friction out of it, right? And then don't do the opener of like, I heard that you have a position open. I'm really excited about it. And they'll do the research on the company. They'll like ChatGPT it and say what's something they're doing. And they're like, really excited because you guys are building Aloha kits. And I think that's great in the industry. It's good that you did some research, and companies appreciate that. But we really just care to look at your experience in your portfolio, right? But they'll be like, I think I align with this position. Do you think we could have a conversation and I could learn more about your needs as a company?
Yeah.
I don't know who's telling these students to do that. It is completely waste of time.
I agree.
Hiring manager is gonna be like, sure, let me email you back and let's schedule a time, and I'm gonna sit there and talk to some kid I've never met for 15 minutes explaining my needs as a company. I literally have 20 a day. I have 100 of those emails a week.
Hiring managers don't have time for it. They don't have time.
I'm not here to educate you about my needs and have a friendly discussion. And I think that teachers are telling kids to do this, or somebody is. And I think back in 1985, that was a good way to get a job, but it isn't anymore. Just send your damn portfolio and make it good. I'll also tell you this: I barely open resumes. I open the portfolio. I'm a college dropout, right? I'm a self-taught person. So I care what you've done. I care how smart you are. I care if you're an engineer and if you're good at it. And I think you're a born engineer or you're not. And I need to know that you've trained yourself and you've educated yourself. That's what I look at. That's what I care about.
Yeah. I completely agree with you, to be honest. Is that, and being that bullish with it as well, and saying, no, you need to look at my portfolio because I can bring value to your company. Being that kind of blunt with it and saying, please, just instead of asking for permission and being really polite about it. I think that's why kids kind of approach it like that, is maybe because they're a little intimidated messaging a CEO first off, or messaging a hiring manager first off. That might be why. But really having the balls, I guess, to kind of lay them on the line and say, look, this is what I've done.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are a lot that do that. They say, here it is. And I do open the resume if that's all it's attached, because there should be a link on the resume to the portfolio. So I do open the resume looking for it. But if there's no link to a portfolio, delete. It's gone.
Yeah.
Mechanical engineering is one of those skill sets that it's like you're a painter. I have to see your paintings, right? And it's like you can't be a painter and ask, or like, let's say you're a wedding photographer, but you won't show a portfolio. I'm not going to hire you, right? I can't hire you. So this industry requires portfolios, and we tend to hire people early in their career. I want them fresh out of college, or even in college, because I can mold them into the right engineer. We don't really hire people who've been around for 4 or 5 years because they're already asking for too much money. They're already content and lazy quite often, arrogant. They think I want 120,000 a year. I am only going to work 9 to 5. I've done this before. That doesn't work in a startup. That might work in an established company that's really large. In a startup, that's not the right fit. So we look for people who are young. So they don't have experience on their resume, right? There's nothing to look for in there. It's all in the portfolio. It's like, this is what I've done. And you don't want to bury the lead. Just get right to it, right? And show it off.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with you, to be honest. You mentioned mechanical engineering, and that's just prompted me to think of the next part, really, is that what engineering skill sets are going to be really, really crucial for the industry in the next 10, 15 years, for example. Mechanical engineering is one that's probably not going anywhere. But any others that kind of spring to mind for being really future proof for how the industry's growing?
Machine learning, right? Mm-hmm. AI. You have to know machine learning if you want to be a programmer. That is the emerging industry, right? And it's going to be everywhere. It's like learning how to program websites for the internet back during the .com bubble, right? And that's what everyone needed, right? So obviously mechanical engineering, because you have to physically build robots. They're physically doing something. Vision's a big one. So like anything that have to do with vision systems and stuff is going to be fruitful, of course. But
everyone's looking for perception engineers. Everyone is looking for perception.
Which is what supports machine learning, right? So cloud-based stuff, like knowing how to program in the cloud because it all lives in the cloud. That is the Internet 2.0, if you will. That is automation, right? So
yeah, completely agree with you. Good stuff. I guess this is the point in the podcast where the floor is yours to be able to talk about anything that is close to your heart, or anything that you feel like doesn't get enough light shone on it in the industry.
I think something that's fun to talk about is understanding what robotics is in the framework of history or the scope of history. That's fun to talk about, where I say that robotics is basically the love child of humanity's 2 greatest inventions. The first one is the ICE, the internal combustion engine and the electric motor, which was the industrial age, right? And that allowed us to automate physical labor, right? And you saw it changed the face of the planet, right? And it made life better for everybody. And then the second one was the dawn of the information age, which turned into the computer age, which is now the AI age, right? And all of those things together automate intellectual labor. So they're both automation. They're 2 different things, physical and intellectual. And robotics is the love child of both of those. And so if you think the first 2 changed the face of the world, imagine what robotics is going to do when it's both of those empowered together, and it's the next wave of automation. Now, humans have been automating for thousands of years, and we're very slow to begin with, and then we start stacking on it. Now it's very, very quick. But we seem as a species to have a innate desire to automate, to work less, to see something be efficient that can do it better than we can, bigger, better, faster, cheaper. That's really it's just we almost have a bloodlust to do it, right? And capitalism is actually good for that, where there's a huge reward for doing it, right? Like if you can create a better mousetrap, a better whatever, you'll be rewarded by making money and selling that, right? And then there's really hardcore competition between different companies trying to make the best product and sell it, right? These days, capitalism is getting a horrible knock, and people are moving back towards socialist thinking and stuff, and for good reason, because capitalism is wildly out of control, and we're losing the middle class, and the middle class and the poor are getting their asses kicked as the oligarchies are taking over, and it's getting very unbalanced and unfair. But we have to realize that capitalism has made life better for everybody on the planet, right? And pure socialism never works. I'm not trying to get political. I'm just trying to discuss the different ways that technologies can move through a society, right? And you need a capitalist engine to do that, right? And so robotics and automation are all part of that, right? That's all I'm really trying to say, is that you get competition and everyone's trying to one-up each other, and it's a technological warfare to make the best stuff in the world, right? And robotics are about to go through that. It's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be really interesting. Everyone's really freaking out about oh my God, what are we gonna do? We're never gonna do anything after this because robots can do everything. Well, we've been automating for thousands of years, and we always end up
Yeah.
making new waves of jobs that no one knew were going to exist. There used to be a lot of people who took care of horses. Now we have a lot of people who work on and build cars, right? Like there's new industries come up as old ones die. Robotics in large part are filling jobs that we can't find enough people for, right? It's not like it's taking jobs so much as there's no one to hire to do the job.
I completely agree with you on that point as well, because they're the 3Ds always come up, don't they? Those dull, dangerous, and dirty, because they're the jobs that nobody wants to do. So if those jobs are being automated, who cares? Who cares if a machine's doing it? Because nobody's in the position anyway. No one wants to do those jobs, otherwise everybody's working there. So why is there so much upheaval about a machine doing a job that nobody wants to do? Is my viewpoint on it.
Right, and it allows the same team to be more efficient. So a good example is like landscaping, for instance. It was a company called Scythe, I believe. I listened to a podcast, and he had a great example on this when he was explaining that their automated lawnmowers allow the same crew to do more because it's taking people off of just standing behind a lawnmower and doing lines. He goes, but you still need them to do trimming. They're tending to the bushes, the trees. They're controlling the lawnmowers. They're doing the edge work, all the detail work. Humans still need to do that. And the robot is handling the mass side of it, right? If you look at any sort of farming thing, robots have been on farms for a long time now. They're everyone thinks of like redneck farmers and all that. They're extremely technological out there. You have these automated GPS-driven tractors that are doing all the work in the fields, but there's a lot of detail work around it that needs to be done. More of that's going to happen in our factories, right? Like our factories, the 3Ds, more robots are going to take over that, but you're going to have people maintaining the robots and doing other things around it.
It turns your job from being awful to almost like a sexy job. I operate robots for a living instead of, I pick raspberries off a field and break my back doing it.
It's always a promise. They're like, well, what's going to happen to the coal workers, right? They're like, oh, we're going to educate them to become programmers and stuff. And there is a false promise there because like most governments aren't really good at educating the poor to suddenly become middle class and do middle class jobs. That's up to the individual, right? There's no one stopping you from doing that as an individual. Like, again, go watch YouTube, go learn to do projects, build a skill, get out of a bad situation if you got yourself in one, or you unfortunately grew up in a poor area or had poor parents. It's the old pull yourself up by the bootstraps thing, I guess, is that sort of sentiment. But that's always available at any generation, right? There's always crappy jobs, right? That's up to the individual to get out of. Like, I think what more like happened is there's just another crappy job next to the robot, right? The robot took over the worst of it. And now there's still something that the robot cannot do yet that we haven't automated yet that you can do. Or like you said, hey man, if you wanna hustle, you wanna learn, you can go up
yourself,
But the robot didn't have to show up for that to happen, right? There was already a shitty job on the assembly line where you already could have become the manager, right? Or the programmer if you wanted to, right? The robot automation showing up changes none of that. And I think it's disingenuous when people blame automation for their station in life because you're already on an automation line, right? There's already CNC machines all around you that didn't exist 50 years ago. From the days of the loom and forward, we started automating physical labor. And if you're complaining that robots are taking your jobs, that's on you. Honestly, it's on you, right?
I agree.
That's always my pushback for that. I say that as a self-made person who, I grew up in a nice town and I had good education, but I really didn't get any help starting my career. And I had to figure it out too, right? So I'm speaking from experience here. I fought long and hard to build up something because I couldn't find an opportunity the standard way. So I know it can be done. And now you have more tools than ever. You have YouTube and you have the knowledge of the human race in your pocket. For heaven's sake, right? So you have the ability to do it. And everybody has electricity and the internet in their home and a warm bed and heating and air conditioning. And you can buy a cheap car to get around. And I know food's expensive, but you can still buy cheap food. That is the promise of America, and I'm in America, is that you can do whatever you want and no one is stopping you. And that is still true today, even with the oligarchies, trying to sell your data and melt your mind with social media. Get off social media, then stop watching it, right? And put yourself through school if that's the necessary thing, right? work harder than your peers that are next to you. You will not end up on an assembly line. You'll be the one who's creating the robots that go on the assembly line. That has been true for hundreds of years, and it's not changing just because we're making robots.
I agree with you. I mean, I'd hate to go against your point on YouTube, but the only thing that it's helped me fix really is my golf swing, and that's very marginal as well. I suppose, Matt, in your opinion, I want to hear really why you think someone should consider a career in the industry today. What's so exciting about robotics for Matt?
It's so multidisciplinary, right? Like, so that's what I love about it, because I don't have ADHD, but I get bored quickly, right? And I like to play with different things. Like you said, what's a normal day for you? It's not normal, because it's like every month we get a new cool project. Like, so there's mechanical engineering, right? Which there's different layers of mechanical engineering. Just within mechanical engineering, there's doing FEA or design or material sciences, or working with gears and gear cutting, or how do you pair the motor with this or that? Like, it's just, there's so much in there alone. And then you have electrical engineering that goes on top of it. Then you have to write firmware for the software. And then you have your high level software on the computer, right? So you can get into computer sciences. And then you now have the cloud being tied to this with data pipelines in between. You have all of that going on, right? And then that's just the technology. Now you have to package that and learn how to do product to market fit and listen to your customers' needs, and then battle the other people in the industry that are all going for the same clients and predict where the market is going. They say that, like, a lot of people think just making the product is like, that's where all the engineering is. That's not true. That's half the battle, is making the product. The other half is making a company that can produce the product in quantity with quality and get it into customers' hands, right? So building a production line is by the way, also a robot, right? So we're making production lines to build robots. So, like, all of that's going on, and it's terribly exciting. So if you're the kind of person that wants to be sort of like a Renaissance man or woman who likes learning all of these different trades, robotics is phenomenally fun, because we do play with all that stuff. And if you're a programmer, it's really cool to make your code do something on a screen. It is way cooler when it's making a robot physically do something. There's a pleasure in that is just amazing. And we're at the precipice of creating, artificial life, essentially. Like, we're creating robots that are going to think on their own and do things, perform tasks that we don't want to do. We're living in the future right now. Like, it is ridiculous. If you told me when I was a kid, you're going to be building like humanoid shaped robots that are helping do human tasks, I would have been like, you're out of your mind. Yeah. And we're there, right? Like, this is the forefront of everything, and you get to play with everything. And it's a kind of, again, choose your own adventure, because it's like you can get involved with all these different things. And it's good to have some experience in all the different areas, but you do want to master sort of one of them and say, this is my lane, right? Because most companies want to hire a specialist who's like, I live and breathe mechanical engineering, or I love cloud development, or I love, applications. When people come in, and I ask this question, and a lot of people get it wrong. I say, if you came into this company and you had all these different divisions that you could do, that you could work in, and you had your choice, which one would it be? You'd be surprised how many people are interviewing for mechanical engineering position that say, I want to learn how to program robots. And then their eyes get big as saucers when I end the interview. They can't believe it. I go, well, then I don't think you're a fit for this. We're looking for mechanical engineering. Oh, no. I just meant, like, I like that. I'd like to learn it, And so, like, I would go home and like learn programming, and I go, well, once again, you're not a fit, because I want someone who will go home and learn how to become a better mechanical engineer, not a programmer. If you want that, we have that division. Go apply in it, right? So you want to specialize, right? And it's good to understand the disciplines that you're going to be working with on a day-to-day basis. That does help you as an engineer, but definitely pick a lane and stay in it.
Yeah, perfect. Love it. You've touched quite well onto my next point, really, and it's to tie it up a little bit, really focus on Trossen. What's exciting about Trossen? What's coming next? Why should people want to come and work for you? I think we've established why people should want to come and work from you from a culture perspective, but what's next and what's exciting?
Well, things are just starting to get exciting, where we're starting to pair all of the different disciplines together, right? So we came from a history as a hardware company that had some software that helped with it, but now we're tying all of it together, right? So the thing I've been saying lately is Trossen Robotics will own coils to cloud, right? So the metal coils that are inside that motor all the way up to the cloud services and the data storage and the machine learned training on it. We're doing a full stack development, right? Which is very exciting and which has to be done next. We have to offer complete solutions to customers at this point because they don't want to be a la carte from 5 different companies and sewing it together. We've survived for 21 years in a very difficult industry. We're not going anywhere anytime soon. So we are a startup. Even though we've been around 21 years, we're the best of both worlds because we already have an international brand. We're very well known. We sell to all the top companies and all the top universities. So it's a great place to start a career and play with some really exciting stuff. Making next generation robotics. It's endlessly fun, right? And we do have that culture here that's really exciting. So we love hiring new talent. You can find me on LinkedIn. And like I said, if you've got a resume in mechanical engineering, which is what I hire for, with a portfolio, send it on over and I'll be happy to look at it.
Perfect. I appreciate that, Matt. Mechanical engineers, get onto Matt. Shoot your resume over. We'll tag you obviously in the post that we shoot out as well. But I guess the last thing for me to do, Matt, is obviously thank you for your time. It's been really insightful. I think one of the more inspiring episodes that I've actually recorded with a guest, to be honest, because I think you've got a really interesting outlook on life itself, but also implementing that into your day-to-day work and obsession, if I might be so bold to say. But honestly, really, really good talking to you, Matt. I think it's a really, really refreshing episode with a lot to think about.
Thank you so much for having me on. This is a lot of fun. And I think it all ties together, man. Like your career is what you do with your life, right? It's not just a job, it's your whole life. So it would make sense that you talk about life and happiness and desires and how to do those things in a healthy way. To me, it all ties together. When I hear about work-life balance, it's weird to me because to me, it's all one thing.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thanks for your time again, Matt. I appreciate it. And we'll talk again soon.
Trossen Robotics, helping innovators innovate.